just people being like, look, I'm tired of sharing my house with you. I'm tired of sharing my private jet with you. And what do you offer me in return? Absolutely nothing.
Occasionally there needs to be an opportunity based on a unique circumstance to ensure that my family are safe.
Have you noticed how every few months there's always another headline about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry? And somehow, each one sounds more intense than the last? Because this time, the conversation feels different. Not just the usual talk about being out of touch. Not just whispers about struggling in Hollywood. But now people are claiming something way more bold. That they might be leaning on wealthy friends for private jets. And even luxury vacation homes. Yeah, that's what people are saying. And online, the reaction is going wild. Opinions flying everywhere, debates heating up fast, and everyone suddenly has something to say. But here's where things start to get complicated, because once you really look into the story, it doesn't feel so simple anymore. Is this actually happening? Or is this just another storyline that keeps following them around no matter what move they make? Let's really look at what's going on. The second this claim popped up, people didn't just react to the moment. They immediately looked back. Back to something the public never really forgot in the first place. The private jet situation involving Elton John. And suddenly, things don't feel random at all. Because when news first broke that Harry and Meghan had flown on Elton John's private jet, it wasn't just another celebrity travel story.
Hi, Elton.
Hi, Elton.
We just wanted to say congratulations.
Congratulations.
We are just so proud of you. We're so grateful that we were able to see you on your farewell tour also.
It became a global talking point almost overnight. Not because private jets are unusual in that world, they definitely aren't, but because of the timing and the image they were presenting publicly. At that exact time, they were openly talking about climate responsibility, about environmental awareness, about trying to do better. Then suddenly, headlines appeared showing them flying private. The reaction? Instant and loud. People didn't just question the flight itself, they questioned the balance between the message and the lifestyle. Then Elton John stepped in and addressed it directly. He explained that he personally covered the cost of the jet. He said the goal was to protect their safety and privacy. According to him, this wasn't careless luxury. It was a planned decision made with purpose. But here's what really stands out. Even with that explanation,
I think even of she would not shoot what was supposed to be a very personal show about being a lifestyle guru and how to be the consummate hostess and make people feel warm and invited and well-fed and well taken care of into one's home. And she wouldn't even do it in her own house. She borrowed a neighbor's home, a neighbor's kitchen. And I guarantee you she did not give them a day rate for filming in said house. And those people had to relocate. I'm sure they had to move out and go find someplace else to stay. I'm sure these are people with multiple residences, but that is not the point. She is a taker. I call them both takers and destroyers.
the conversation didn't disappear, because once people think they've caught a contradiction, it sticks hard. It doesn't matter how many explanations come later. That first impression becomes the filter for everything that follows. Now jump to today. A fresh claim pops up, saying they're leaning on wealthy friends for private jets, luxury homes, and exclusive access. And suddenly, that old situation rushes right back into the spotlight, but this time it feels heavier. Before, it looked like one isolated moment with a clear explanation. Now people are wondering if that situation was just the first clue to something bigger. And that shift, from one-time story to possible pattern, is exactly why this latest claim is spreading so fast. Because many aren't treating this like brand new information. They're treating it like confirmation of something they already suspected. And once that mindset takes over, the conversation starts moving fast.
I spend 99% of my life traveling the world by commercial. Occasionally there needs to be an opportunity based on a unique circumstance to ensure that my family are safe.
What makes this even more interesting is how the claim showed up. Not with hard proof, but with a certain tone. A kind of suggestion that makes everything sound like an open secret. Like behind closed doors, in powerful circles, there's already an understanding about how things work. That access comes with the lifestyle. Whether that idea is accurate or not, it spreads quickly because it fits the picture people already have in mind. And once that happens, the story almost builds itself. People begin connecting dots that were never officially connected. The private jet situation, the luxury image, the influential friendships. Suddenly, it starts to look like one complete story, even if those pieces don't actually come from the same place. And the timing? That's what really adds pressure, because this isn't happening during a quiet moment.
I also think that we've heard over the years that they will ask you, can I borrow your beach house? Oh, thank you. Thank you for letting me use your vacation home. Do you mind if I borrow your private jet to get there? I mean, they ask and relentlessly ask for more with zero shame.
This is unfolding right as Meghan steps back into the spotlight again, making moves that feel very deliberate. There are now reports saying she's making a subtle but very noticeable return to the screen, appearing as herself. Not a huge acting role, nothing dramatic on the surface, but just enough to remind everyone she's still present, still visible, still part of that world. At the same time, there are clear signals that her business ambitions are growing fast. Trademark filings popping up, brand positioning becoming more strategic, quiet steps that suggest something much bigger is being built behind the scenes piece by piece. And now, two completely different storylines are colliding at the exact same moment. One side of the conversation says she's focused on building something new, expanding, creating independence, making calculated moves that show long-term thinking.
It seems even Californians have caught up on how unbearable Meghan Markle and Prince Harry are. A new report has revealed the couple's neighbours in Montecito have had enough. One source told Page Six they are avoiding them. No one wants to be seen with them. It's just a growing awareness that they're takers with zero self-awareness. Everyone is exhausted by them.
The other side claims that behind the curtain, powerful connections still play a major role. That wealthy networks and exclusive circles continue to open doors most people never even get close to. When those two ideas clash, people notice immediately. Because it creates tension, it creates uncertainty, it sparks curiosity that spreads fast. Which version reflects reality? That's the question everyone keeps asking. But here's the thing, the internet rarely waits for clear answers. It reacts first, asks questions later. And right now, the reaction is loud and impossible to ignore. Everywhere you look, people are analyzing every detail. Old moments are being pulled back into the spotlight. Past appearances are being viewed through a completely new lens. Because once an accusation like this enters the conversation, it rarely stays contained. It spreads into everything connected to the story.
Takers is an excellent word. So is entitlement, users. I mean, a lot of words you could use to describe those two.
Suddenly, every trip looks more calculated. Every connection looks more strategic. Every luxury moment starts raising new questions. Nothing feels neutral anymore. Everything feels like it carries hidden meaning. And that's the exact point where a simple headline transforms into a narrative that follows someone everywhere. That's exactly what seems to be happening now. Because whether this specific claim holds weight or not, the impact is already reaching much further than one situation. It's starting to reshape how people interpret everything around Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. And this reaction isn't happening in isolation. It's unfolding on top of years of public perception, repeated storylines, and an image that has been built, challenged, and reshaped again and again. The current claims about relying on wealthy friends for private jets and luxury homes didn't just appear out of nowhere. They landed in an environment where many people are already prepared to connect dots quickly.
Thank you for entertaining everybody for so many decades. Thank you for being the friend that you were for my mum. Thank you for being our friend. Thank you for being friends to our kids. And thank you for entertaining people right around the world.
When a story touches something that already feels familiar, it doesn't always need strong proof to gain attention. It just needs to sound believable enough to fit the picture people already have in mind. And right now, that sense of familiarity is doing most of the heavy lifting. To really understand why this narrative is hitting so strongly right now, you have to look at one theme that has followed them for years: the environmental conversation. Long before this latest claim appeared, there were already ongoing discussions about how their public messaging lines up with their lifestyle, especially when the topic of travel and private aviation comes up. Prince Harry has spoken many times about environmental responsibility, climate awareness, and the need for global action. These weren't random comments. They were repeated across interviews, speeches, and public appearances, forming a consistent message about being aware of global challenges. Through association, Meghan became part of that same image, presenting themselves as a modern couple connected to bigger world issues and forward-thinking values.
And some of the neighbors saying that they don't hate them, they just avoid them. No one wants to be seen with them. It's a growing awareness that they're takers with zero self-awareness, and everyone's exhausted by them. I think takers is the key word. They've been accused of asking to borrow people's vacation homes, asking to borrow their jets. Their relationships seem very one-sided, and they're focused on what they can get out of other people and how they can take the financial burden off of themselves.
But that image has always carried a certain level of tension, because whenever private jet travel enters the conversation, people quickly notice the contrast. One of the most talked about moments shaping this perception involved their connection to Elton John. When news became public that they had used his private jet, it didn't stay a minor detail for long. It quickly became a major global discussion point, not because private jets are unusual among high-profile figures, that part isn't surprising, but because of the timing and the public messaging surrounding them at that moment. The reaction focused heavily on what many saw as a contradiction between promoting environmental responsibility while also participating in high-emission travel. That contrast became the center of attention, sparking strong opinions and ongoing debate. Elton John publicly stepped in to clarify the situation, explaining that he personally covered the cost of the flight and emphasizing that safety played a major role in the decision.
I mean, you would think they're really smart people living in Montecito. They have a lot of money. They would have picked up on this from day one, but it's been apparently a growing awareness. The quote continues that they're takers with a zero self-awareness. Everyone is exhausted by them. Another source, they are avoiding them. Neighbors of the two of them, no one wants to be seen with them.
That context was significant, and it added important perspective to the situation. But even with that explanation, the public conversation didn't fully disappear. Instead, the moment became part of a larger storyline. Once a situation like that enters public memory, it tends to stick. It becomes a reference point that people return to whenever a similar topic appears again. And that's exactly what seems to be happening now. As new claims about borrowing private jets and staying in luxury homes began circulating, many didn't view them as isolated situations. Instead, they filtered the information through everything that came before: the Elton John connection, the environmental messaging, and the broader discussion about lifestyle versus public positioning. That's why the reaction feels so strong, not necessarily because the claim introduced something completely new, but because it fits into an existing narrative many people already recognize. And when something feels familiar, attention increases fast. At the same time, the timing of these claims adds even more intensity to the situation. Because while this narrative is gaining momentum, Meghan is also making subtle but very noticeable moves back into the public and creative space, not in an explosive, headline-dominating way, but through smaller steps that clearly signal she's still active, still building, and still shaping her direction. These moves matter because they influence how people interpret the bigger picture. On one side, there are accusations suggesting reliance on exclusive access and influential networks. On the other side, there are visible efforts pointing toward independence, expansion, and strong personal branding.
What took them so long? This was clear to most of us a while back.
Yeah, I don't know where are these kids going to land. They got nowhere to go. They started in Vancouver and then people found out where we were living. We had to leave. Then they were in the UK. They got kicked out of there. They had to move another place in UK. Now in Montecito, it's like they're turning into weird modern day gypsies.
When those two storylines exist at the same time, tension naturally builds. Because now every new development can be interpreted in completely different ways. A public appearance might look like progress, or it might look strategic. A business decision might signal independence or careful positioning. Even silence can create speculation depending on what someone already believes. That's why this moment feels especially charged. It's no longer just about whether a single claim is accurate or not. It's about how that claim fits into a much larger narrative that has been forming in people's minds over time. And once that narrative starts taking shape, separating new information from existing beliefs becomes incredibly difficult. So when conversations mention private jets, luxury homes, and powerful connections, many people don't hear a standalone claim. They hear something that connects directly into an ongoing storyline, one that already includes past controversies, environmental discussions, public messaging and visible lifestyle choices. Because of that, the reaction isn't only about what's happening right now, it's about everything that led up to this point. Every previous headline, every viral moment, every public statement becomes part of the context shaping how people respond today. That's exactly why this story spread so quickly. Not just because of the claim itself, but because of the environment surrounding it. Right now, that context is doing most of the heavy lifting in shaping how people interpret, discuss, and engage with the situation as a whole. At this stage, the conversation surrounding Meghan Markle and Prince Harry has clearly moved beyond a simple headline or single accusation. What started as scattered discussions about private jets and luxury accommodations has developed into something far more layered. Something sitting right at the intersection of public perception, reputation, and expectation.
And if I have to do that, not a decision that I would want to take, but if I have to do that, then I will ensure, as I have done previously, and I will continue to make sure that I do, is to balance out that impact that I have. And I've always offset my CO2.
Because whether people realize it or not, stories like this are rarely judged on facts alone. They are judged on how well they align with the narrative people feel they already understand. Consistency matters. Familiar patterns matter. And when something appears to match an existing storyline, it gains traction quickly. This is where things become complicated. Once a narrative takes hold, new information rarely enters neutral territory. Instead, it gets filtered through an existing lens shaped by years of media coverage, interviews, public appearances, and viral discussions that help define how the couple is viewed. For some, they represent independence, reinvention, and breaking away from tradition. For others, they represent contradiction, inconsistency, and a perceived gap between messaging and lifestyle choices. And when a new claim surfaces, it doesn't arrive in an empty space. It enters a space already filled with strong opinions. The latest wave of discussion has been amplified not just by the private jet claims themselves, but by how quickly they circulated across social media. The story spread rapidly, not necessarily because of confirmed detail, but because it fits easily into an ongoing narrative many people already recognize. When something feels familiar, it becomes easier to believe, easier to share, and easier to merge into existing viewpoints without deeper verification. That's often how modern media cycles operate. They don't just report events, they reinforce patterns that people already expect to see.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry getting the cold shoulder from their Montecito neighbors. A quick little bite from the piece. A source tells Page Six that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's Montecito, California neighbors are over it. It's not hate, says a source. It's just a growing awareness.
What really makes this moment stand out is how strongly it connects back to earlier points of tension that never fully faded away. The connection to Elton John, for example, keeps coming up again and again whenever private aviation gets mentioned in relation to Harry and Meghan. Even though the situation was explained at the time, and Elton John personally clarified the context surrounding the flight, that moment slowly became symbolic. It stopped being only about one specific trip and started representing something much bigger in the wider conversation about environmental messaging and lifestyle choices. And once something becomes symbolic, it tends to stick around. Symbols often last longer than explanations. They get reused, reshaped, and brought back into the spotlight whenever a similar theme appears again. That's exactly why the current claims feel so intense. They aren't being looked at as separate situations. Instead, they are being layered onto an existing framework that already includes environmental debates, public expectations, and previous criticisms. Within that framework, many observers place strong importance on consistency. When actions appear aligned with messaging, it strengthens credibility. But when people perceive a disconnect, it creates doubt. And once doubt enters the conversation, it rarely disappears completely. Instead, it resurfaces whenever a new story appears that seems to connect back to it. That cycle keeps the discussion alive, even when new details emerge later on. At the same time, the broader media environment plays a huge role in shaping how this narrative develops. Headlines are designed to grab attention quickly, not always to present full context right away. Because of that, first impressions often carry more influence than later clarifications.
Their neighbours in Montecito have had enough of Harry and Meghan.
By the time additional details are introduced, the central idea of the story has usually already spread widely. In this case, The suggestion that Harry and Meghan may rely on wealthy networks for access to private jets and luxury homes is the type of headline that travels fast, regardless of nuance. It's direct, provocative, and easy for people to understand instantly. And in today's fast-moving information landscape, simple narratives often spread faster than complex explanations. But behind that simplicity, reality is usually more layered. Public figures often operate in environments where access, relationships, and collaborations are part of everyday professional life. Travel arrangements, invitations, and accommodations frequently connect to broader social and business networks. However, those same situations can be interpreted in very different ways depending on what someone already believes. One person may see normal industry dynamics, while another may see evidence supporting a larger pattern, and that gap in interpretation is exactly where most of the debate continues to grow. At the same time, Meghan's continued presence in media and brand-related spaces adds another powerful layer to the conversation. Every appearance, every project, every carefully timed move shapes how people interpret her direction. Some see these steps as a clear signal that she's building an independent identity and creating long-term positioning beyond royal ties. Others, however, watch through a more critical lens, analyzing every move for consistency with past messaging. And as long as these two viewpoints exist side by side, every update becomes part of the debate rather than a final answer. What's undeniable is that this story isn't standing still. It keeps evolving as new reactions, opinions, and interpretations get added into the mix. In many ways, the response to this latest wave of claims reveals just as much about the audience as it does about the people at the center of the discussion. Public perception never forms in isolation. It grows collectively, shaped by previous headlines, media framing, and personal viewpoints that influence how new information is received. Once a narrative reaches a certain level of familiarity, it can start sustaining itself. People begin to expect it, look for it, and sometimes even reinforce it without fully realizing they are doing so. Patterns become easier to recognize, even when the full picture is still developing. Looking at the bigger perspective, this situation goes far beyond whether a single claim is confirmed or dismissed. It shows how narratives are built step by step, how momentum grows over time, and how stories continue to exist even as new details emerge. One moment can easily echo into the next. One headline can trigger memories of previous headlines, and gradually separate events can begin to feel like part of one larger storyline. Right now, that storyline is still unfolding, not in a perfectly straight line and definitely not with a simple conclusion. Instead, it continues moving through a cycle of new claims, fresh reactions, and changing interpretations that keep the conversation alive. Whether that eventually leads to clarity or continued debate is still uncertain. But one thing is clear: as long as public interest remains strong, this story will keep evolving, with each new headline becoming part of the same ongoing conversation that began long before this moment and will likely continue long after the spotlight shifts again. Now, if you've got thoughts on this, drop them in the comments. Let's hear what you think. If this breakdown opened your eyes, hit subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to see it.